Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now May 17th of 2023, and as we get closer to the end of this month is when we get to see and finally witness the marketing plan by Jon and Dave for the Ahsoka Tano series in preparation for, by the way, its July final trailer ahead of its August release date window. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support, and without further ado, let's get right into exactly what's going on here. Now, we know that Jon and Dave are really up to their game right now. They really want to make sure that Star Wars is indeed going to thrive and survive and really kind of explore areas that fans would have never experienced if it weren't for Jon and Dave. So a lot of this is rooted to how they were given the opportunity to really take and cherry pick a lot of stories from Star Wars Legends and adapting those moments as accurately as they can. And Jon Favreau talks a lot about this and how it's going to deeply impact the sequel trilogy lore and the canon, and how a lot of things are indeed shifting around and getting rearranged. Favreau was able to elaborate on this once more to be a little bit more direct with the fans and a little bit more specific about exactly what this process was all like. Now, given that Jon Favreau is, of course, a big Legends and EU fan, this is exactly why he's pursuing this, is because he's a fan of that himself. He loves those stories, he loves the way that they're presented and executed, and he wants to bring back the mythos and the overall magical feeling of Star Wars again. So, with both Favreau and Filoni recently teasing their plans for the future of Star Wars shows and more, they went on to confirm something substantial to the fandom when questioned about Legends. Now, Jon stated the following first. Well, in order for us to be able to tell the Legends stories that we want to, myself and Dave had to make a tough decision on sacrificing many elements of the sequel trilogy canon, whatever it may be from the books or movies. Something had to be undone to provide us the freedom that we needed to tell for characters like Luke, for example, to adapt the popular tales from the expanded universe. It's something you think about every day on whether or not it's the right decision. So Dave and I would talk this over every single day. How do we bring in those Legends characters that were so popular and tell them as accurately as we can? And the only answer that we both agreed on was rearranging that lore that already exists, which we realized some fans at first may come to find that difficult to deal with and quite frankly upsetting, but we feel that we are doing a great service to the long, dedicated fans that have supported this brand for well over 40 years. Now look, before I get to the next thing that Favreau talks about, this is without a doubt probably one of the best moves that they're making on all of the upcoming Star Wars lore, including the overall structure of the Legends content getting cherry-picked and transferred into live-action adaptations. Now, this is all going to start with Ahsoka Season 1 and 2, as well as Mando Season 4. Those are the three big ones that are really going to bring Legends on the table. There's also a couple of other shows that have yet to have been announced that will be, by the way, this September at D23. It's going to be a big event for the Star Wars shows, and it will also be focusing on new movie announcements as well, so keep your eye open for that. But Jon Favreau is making things very clear here that prior to this, they really had little to no creative power or freedom to really tell the Legends tales that they wanted to if they did not sacrifice the sequel trilogy canon. Now, this brings one to question, specifically what canon from the sequels are being rearranged or undone. Now, we do know that what they are doing behind closed doors has a lot to do with the World Between Worlds for Ahsoka Season 2, which, by the way, most of it has already been storyboarded. They're going to begin writing the script for the second season by this fall, as a follow-up to when the show actually releases in August. So that's basically their timeline with that. But the thing that I find to be the most important of all is doing this in a way, or executing in a way, that's going to satisfy fans. You have to do this that is going to not just be done for the sake of doing it, it has to have a true, meaningful purpose to telling these stories, especially if the Legend stories are to be inserted. You have to respect the lore. And Jon and Dave realize that. They are very well aware that you can't take advantage of them just because they're called Legends and just stripping those stories and putting it into the Disney canon. They want to make sure that what they are doing makes sense and that it fits in with the stories that they're telling. All right. So the next thing that I do want to actually further go on to explain about what Jon Favreau elaborates on is, on top of this, he goes on to state, without revealing too much, what I will say is that many of the plots and stories fans read related to Legends, we are fully dedicated to bringing those and adapting those into live action. Now, separate from what Favreau stated here, this all alludes to his plan to introduce Mara Jade as one of Thrawn's allies in The Mandalorian Season 4 that they are aiming to now drop by 2025 on Disney+, as well as adapting Luke Skywalker Legends stories into live action. They also plan to use the WBW and Ahsoka Season 2 that is going to erase some of the sequel canon but not all of it, to open up freedom to tell those Legends tales to the audience. Now get this, Filoni is already working on developing Kyle Katarn to be told in Mando 4, who will be one of Luke's best Jedi students, connected to his academy in live action. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about Kyle Katarn. It's a well-established Legends character, let's just leave it at that, to sum things up. But this just goes to show you that Dave is just as aware as Jon about how much Legends means to the fans. And look, I understand you can't really retell every single Legends story, but what they want to do is they want to establish the main points of the Legends stories into the current canon. And they want to make sure of that. They want to make sure that's going to become a concrete thing. It's going to be cemented into the Disney canon, and to really just make sure that it's going to be all fine. Now, thankfully, we have other creators hopping on board of other shows. We talked about this in the last couple of posts, that Tony Gilroy is going to be writing a lot of upcoming Star Wars series with Dave Filoni. There's talks that James Cameron will come on board as well as a co-writer, not a main writer, but it's something. So they're getting a lot of very talented individuals involved in this quote-unquote a dream team to really steer Star Wars in the right path. They really want to create this course correct that's going to be done in a very consistent, positive manner. Not just because of it being a fad or anything like that. They want to really turn Star Wars around and make that a permanent thing so they can keep putting out content onwards that's going to be very successful. So making sure that they do that, it's all about really elaborating, how it's going to be done, right? Jon and Dave want to be very clear that they want to be very direct, they want to be very apparent with the fan base going into all of this in order to keep the fans informed very well. And that's one major reason why I personally love Jon and Dave, is that they like to hype the fan base up about what's coming next. It's like why Dave Filoni loves talking about Ahsoka, the main villains such as, of course, Thrawn, Baylan Skoll, and Shin Hati, all these amazing new villains coming to light, and how that's going to be established. So, yeah, I mean, guys, I'm really intrigued to hear what all of you have to say about this below in the comments related to what Jon has to say here about resetting the saga. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.